AI is making major strides and making major changes to our everyday life. So quick that sometimes we are kind of blown away at what it's doing. Within 5 years, we'll talk about what surveys show of how many jobs AI will take. Now the question is, what are you going to do within 5 years? Do you have debt still? Are you going to have a house paid for? Are you retiring? No, most of those things are not true about you at all. So what is Americans going to do when this alarming amount of AI takes over your jobs? We're going to discuss that today. And then we're going to discuss the judiciary. Some things that are just kind of unique. We have a 43-year-old U.S. attorney that worked in the DOJ that just naturally died. I don't know about that. How's it natural? I don't know. It's kind of unique, huh? And then also in D.C., how many courts, how many of these federal judges are actually not even born in America? Is that a big deal to you or not? And then we're going to discuss this map. You see this map? How crazy. There's a lot of red all over, especially in the West. What does that map actually show? And what do I think we need to do about it? And how dangerous is it with those rednesses? We're going to talk about federal land and how Trump has talked about selling some of it. And truthfully, why is the biggest landowner in America the federal government? Isn't it the land of the free and home of the brave? Or is it the land of government just owning everything? We're going to discuss that entitlements a little bit more. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with something that's been pretty personal to me. I've been attacked pretty heavily and censored, and we're going to discuss a little bit about that today as we end the video. Please stick around for that because I need your support and help. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to our channel today. Thank you so very much for being here. We humbly thank you for finding us, and if you like the content, please give us a thumbs up. It means the world to us. Also remember our other channel, Life with Kobe Mack. We have another channel that vlogs. We talk about sustainable living and actually practicing, and it's very uplifting. You see our children being a part of our life. So please go check out that channel, Life with Kobe Mack. It's a phenomenal channel, and we're trying to get it kicked off. And again, remember, when you're subscribed to both these channels and also my wife's channel, The Max Life, we do giveaways each and every month, and it's something usually is worth hundreds of dollars, and we give it to you as a thank you gift. And all it takes is you subscribing and you commenting below. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's talk about AI. There's a new report that shows that AI is actually making leaps and bounds. I heard an ad just as I was turning on YouTube this morning, how they said that the new phones are hooked up with new Apple Intelligence. And then all of a sudden you turn on Twitter and it's like new Grok Intelligence. Google, when you open your Google, it has a new little link to their Google Gemini. We're actually making way bigger strides in AI technology than ever before. You hear DeepSeek, you hear all these different AI platforms. You hear a lot of the tech businesses are building new platforms each and every day, and then the other ones are using these platforms. Well, there's convenience, there's good things about maybe AI, but like last night I watched a movie about how AI would take over. I went back and watched iRobot the other day, and it's amazing how in 2004 when that movie was made, and how they're predicting that AI would look out, quote unquote, for our betterment, but actually it was causing harm to our humans. Let's discuss this, and this is why it's very important. AI is rapidly taking over the workforce. Estimates indicate that in the next 5 years, listen to this now, it could replace 41% of all occupations. AI is set to replace 41% of the workforce within the next 5 years. Now think about that. 41% are not ready to retire. 41% is not completely financially independent. 41% depend on their checks. Remember, there's a study that showed that 70% of individuals in America right now are living paycheck to paycheck. So how is that going to affect you? Now, there's two ways it can affect you, bottom line. Either we become more innovative and we find more technology, so AI is running certain things and it gives us more time to be entrepreneurs and find innovation and build new businesses. That may work for about 5 to 10%. But what about for the rest of the 41% that we were just talking about? The only other option is UBI. You've seen this talked about with forms of, well, if AI is doing all this, humans are not needed as much. So we're gonna make sure that we cut their workload. We're gonna cut their workforce. We're also gonna give them stimulus. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give them universal basic income. You don't believe that's gonna happen? If all of a sudden we did not have Trump in, that was actually coming up. UBI was part of Biden's platform and Kamala's platform, of course. So what I'm saying is there's only two ways to look at this. Either it's going to help job creation for some people, meaning there's going to be more innovative entrepreneurs, or there's going to be a more dependency on the AI, and then all of a sudden we're going to be almost as a UBI candidate, where if we don't have jobs, the only way for the government to make it is overtax some and then give to the others. To me, my thing is this. I always say, okay, when I was 20 years old, my plan was, or 22 actually, I bought my first house at 18, and I bought my second house at 22. And when I bought that second house at 22, I told myself, I said, 15 years I'll have the house paid for. That was a goal I set. Now we've bought and sold that home. We've been blessed and God's been good to us, and now we own this home and we are pretty much all debt free. The thing is this though, when we set goals, we want to get to those goals. Well, we just heard that in 5 years that 41% of the workforce may be out of jobs. So have you thought about setting up a 5-year plan to say, okay, if that's the case, then I need to be more independent. If that's the case, I need to find a way to maybe start co-opting land to farm a little bit. If that's the case, I know I'm older, but it may be one of those things that I start buying a little extra stockpile to put up for tough times. If that's the case, we may all want to start learning how to move in together, meaning like for instance, on our property, our goal is to build several homes for our children. Not that we're going to be financially able to build all those homes. I'm saying that we can learn to put our assets together, and our children, hopefully, and their spouses will live close to us in proximity to where we can manage the land together and be sustainable together. Have you thought about contacting a farmer or a market gardener and saying, look, I would love to come work on your farm for a day or a week or a few times a year so we can work out switching things around? Like for instance, when we go on vacations or we go out of town, we work with individuals that we basically switch out milk for. So we give milk and eggs, and we give garden goods during certain times of the year, so that way when we're not able to be here, they take over the farm chores. See, we learn to barter those skills out. We learn to barter things amongst each other. So just be thinking about that. If AI is going to take 41% of the jobs, and you don't have a specialty job, you just have a simple day in and day out job, you work as a service-oriented job, how dangerous is the next few years, and how much you should be preparing for the next few years. Now they're saying upwards of 41%, and they're saying 5 years. The technology has grown to a point where that 5-year plan was actually a 15-year plan. So within a few months, that went from 15 to 5. So say for instance, all of a sudden the innovation in AI gets even more advanced. What if all of a sudden that changes to 3 or to 2? It can happen. Don't believe it won't happen. AI is coming more and more in our lives, and people are using it each and every day. Pay attention to that story. That's a pretty big story. Now I want to go to this image right here. That was the one I showed you just a while ago. All that red on our map is where federal lands and government still owns the land. Definitely a lot more out west. It's amazing how that happened, and how as people settled out west, the government still took a lot of those lands. Now, I don't live out west, but I know there are some people that do, and a lot of them are ranchers, and they have to kind of rent the land, lease the land, and the government has the rights to the land. Also, another big deal, water rights is a big deal over in the west. So Trump made a comment a few weeks ago, and you've not heard much about it, but he's talked about how really America needs to own its own land. Americans need to own their own land, not really the government. And so what I would hope to see is some of this land come up for sale. Now, what I don't want to see is big businesses buy this. I hope that they put on some kind of stipulation that they would love to see local individuals and families purchase land and give them the first right of refusal. Another thing, why is it right for our government to own these lands? Now, I'm going to talk to you about a bigger situation. Why is it right for the government to charge property tax on our own land? So this is a kind of a two-part question. We have government owning land. They are the biggest landowner in America, is the government. Secondly, they have rights to every piece of land because you owe property tax on that land. So what we've built is a land of free, home of the brave, and actually what we've built is a falsity there, because that's not absolutely true. We rent our lands. Just like I've told you before, we've been, I just paid my last property tax in January, but it's like, when you add up all the property tax I pay between my farm, between my home, between all the buildings we have, between our business that has now been zoned as C3 in our town, which is not a C3 zone, it's not a commercial rate zone, but they annexed it So guess what? I've paid $36,000 to $37,000 a year just in property tax. So do I actually own my land? What did I say a while ago? We have paid for property, but it's not actually paid for, because if I don't choose to pay that property tax when I don't get anything for it, then the government owns it. Or someone else can just buy it at auction on the court steps. Now, is that fair? Now, we've heard Ron DeSantis, we've heard Vivek, we've even heard Trump and Howard Lutnick talk about these things. I don't think we're putting enough pressure on our Congress and Senate. First of all, I think they're worthless. But secondly, this should be something that every state is up in arms about. Now, Mississippi just passed a no-income state income tax bill. It's going to be like over 10 years. I mean, again, that should have been over 1 year, but I digress. But sadly, if we don't start petitioning our people to where not only does government need to sell its public land, its water rights, and its land that it holds that it should not hold, something that's even more important is you need to get out of property tax. There's other ways and other means, and I know we're talking about the IRS versus the ERS, the External Revenue Service. One thing that we need to get out of is making Americans rent their land each and every year. They literally purchase their land again each and every year, and it's unfair. So that map is a major foretelling of how much government land there is. I mean, every state has tons of red in it. I mean, look, Alaska, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, tons of it is owned by the government or public access land. But what's even sadder, the whole map should be completely solid red. Why? Because we never really own our land. We're not the land of the free and home of the brave when our government is charging us property tax each and every year. And if we choose not to pay it after the third year, it's delinquent. After the third year, people pay their taxes, it becomes theirs for a tax bill. So do we ever own our land? This is a fight that no one's talking about, that every American should be talking about, especially if you own something. I'm telling you about AI, and I'm telling you to go co-op land and go buy land with farmers and go maybe buy land with your family. Well, this is the push. If you buy land, then it's never your land, because ultimately you still have to pay property tax on it, which is a complete and utter wrong thing to do to Americans. Something we need to be thinking about more and more is to push against property tax. That should be the fight of freedom-loving patriots. Let's talk about D.C. D.C., a third of the district judges, listen to this, a third of D.C. district judges were not born in the United States. And I know people say, well, it doesn't matter, they're citizens now. Yeah, but here's the thing I want to pay attention to. A lot of these D.C. judges that were appointed were the ones that Obama and Biden appointed. A lot of these people may not have a passion for the U.S. like we may have a passion for the U.S. Now here's the thing, and here's what I want to make sure we understand. If we really want a better judiciary, we've got to quit appointing activist judges. It's amazing how all this stuff has been held up by these judges against Trump. Most of these judges that are holding Trump up are all judges that have ties to Democrats and or not born in America. I just don't know if that's coincidental. Also, I don't know if we can say that our judiciary, who is supposed to be the one to interpret laws, is making law basically from the bench. If we have people that are in charge of our bench that is not natural-born citizens like we make the president be, is that something we should think about? Are those people looking out for the well-being of Americans? And this goes for all our government. If someone is not, bleeding red, white, and blue, speaking, again, hyperbole, but if we're not literally living as patriots of America and we're not actually wanting America to thrive, then why are we having these people actually in charge? And I go back to Congress. Why is Congress allowing these judges to be activists and allowing these judges to stay on the bench, especially if they're not standing up for, literally, America? I mean, again, you can say left or right. You can say how, there's some things that you may not believe in or you do believe in. But the judge that's saying they want the Venezuelan gangs back in America, they were not allowed to deport them. I mean, think about that now. How is that, how does the left justify that position? To bring in gangs from Venezuela back to America because the judge said so. So I thought that story was very coincidental that 92% of all the activist judges that went against a president from 2000 to 2025, 92% has been against Trump, those injunctions. Of those 92%, 100% has been Democrat-appointed judges. And of that, in DC, 33% of the judges in DC are not even of American descent. We're not born here. So does their heart bleed red, white, and blue? Do they actually love America? And do they stand up for the Constitution? I hope they do. But what I've seen is, coincidentally, all those are standing against Trump. So do they really stand up for America first, or do they stand up for people like the Venezuelans, the gang members that the Venezuela people wanted to get rid of? We took them in, and then all of a sudden we want to get rid of them, and now this activist judge, and along with the Democrats, are saying bring them back. Just help me understand the logic there. And this is something, again, kind of like the property tax, we should just look into. I mean, why in the world do we want activist judges and judges who don't believe in America? I think that's just things that we need to pay attention to. And this is the kind of stories that I don't think are getting enough traction, because we just look at it as, well, these judges are bad. But we need to look at what's their motives? What's their funding? Why do they feel this way? And the sad thing is, why do Democrats and rhinos support things that don't support Americans? Why do we put the property tax on Americans when we know that that's actually causing more problems? Why does the government own too much land? I mean, all these things are things that we should be discussing, and no one's really doing that. I didn't talk about this in the intro, but look at this. I want you to look at this map too. This is another map. You see the green, you see the red, and you see the white. I don't know what they use those colors for, but the green, of those green states, 98% of those green states are all areas that are Republican. The red states are all Democrat. The whites are kind of swing states. Some are Republican, some are Democrat. Now, why do I want to show you that map? You know what this map is? This map is state taxes that have changed. This goes back to the thing about property tax. All the green states, which are all Republican-led states, every one of them have lowered taxes on their constituents, on the Americans that live in those states. Mississippi, and Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and Arizona, Utah. All those have lowered it. And there's a few Democrat states like Colorado that's lowered, not quite a percentage, but at least it lowered some. But one thing I want you to pay attention to is not just the green states that lowered, but the red states. Every red state that you see on there, every red state is a liberal state, is a state that always tends to trend liberal and Democrat. And every one of those has raised taxes on their constituents. So get the left and right out of this. Just think about your money. If that map means anything, why would we want to stay supporting Democrats? Because what they're doing is they're just taxing us more to implement new policies and new entitlements. That should wake us up a little bit to where things that we're not talking about. You know who the blame is this? This is not dealing with your national side of it. This is your states. So again, this goes back to the people you're electing in your town and your state capitals, not just who you elect nationally. One thing that we need to pay attention to is, if you're living in one of those red states, that's because you choose to vote for these people who are supposedly watching out for you, but ultimately charging you more taxes. I just thought that was a very unique visual thought pattern to say, it's weird how all the states that are taxing you more are all liberal states. I just thought that was unique. All the states, and including a few independent states, and a few like Colorado and New Mexico. Other than that, the other states were all Republican-leaning states that have lowered their taxes on their constituents. Now, should there be any tax on any constituents? No, I believe that we need to go back to tariffs, like I said. But I just thought that was a unique view of a map to show. If you're living in these liberal areas, why do you want to be under the control of these liberals? Because one thing, your towns and cities are burning down, your capitals are in shams, and ultimately they're charging you more taxes to live there. What have we actually gained from more government control? Not really anything. So my goal is for this video is with this AI, with this property tax, with the fact of the government owning the lands they shouldn't own. Also with the fact of overtaxation and the judges that are pushing for activist causes that are not American causes, but that are causes for global pushes, basically. One thing we need to pay attention to all these stories is none of these things are actually helping you. So why do we send people to Washington? Why do we elect people to go to our state capitals? Why do we elect people to go and be mayors of our towns and aldermen of our towns, when we realize that none of these people are actually looking out for us? I think that's where we really need a reawakening for America, to go back to true freedom. I think if our forefathers come back and saw exactly what these leaders were doing when they literally fought for our freedom over a 2 or 3% tax on tea. And here we are getting taxed 40% by our overlords and their government. And most of them are filthy rich off the taxpayers, not off their jobs, but off taxpayers. I just think that we would see another Boston Tea Party, because we should have a reawakening, because we are getting abused here in America. And that might be why I've been held down on this channel. Now that's kind of the last point of the video. I want to kind of talk about platform and my channel. Our goal is to keep on posting, but more and more, even talking to a YouTube agent, more and more we've been silenced. We usually do about 2.5 to 3 million views a month, which is very small compared to a lot of bigger channels, but that has been cut down to about a third. We're barely getting 1 million views. Actually this month we probably won't. They've also stopped recommending us. There's a part on our analytics where it tells you, who's watching, subscribers, non-subscribers. It also tells you how they're recommending you, suggesting you across channels. Well, that's not happening anymore. And I know there's been 2 or 3 other channels we've actually talked about the same size as mine that do the same conservative kind of talking points, and they've been silenced too. What we've seen is a pushback on us. So even though things like conservatism and patriotism and American first policies are really being promoted now, there's still a lot of people like me that's been personally attacked, that's not been able to get their messages out. So here's what I need. It's no money. We don't ask you to give us money or anything like that. We just want you to subscribe. We want you to make sure that you have the thumbs up for our videos, and we want to make sure that you have got that little bell on all notifications. What we see more of is people are not getting notified and people are getting unsubscribed to our channel. We've talked to, like I said, 2 or 3 other channels that's feeling the same kind of pressure. Now this is not a woe is me and to make you feel sad for me. It's not that at all. But our goal is to keep on sharing. Luckily our sponsors has helped us because they've allowed us to keep on spreading our message and been able to daily post. What we hope and pray is that we're giving you some kind of information that's great. And if so, please tell us and encourage us that way, because it does make us feel better, especially when this platform takes it away from us a lot. Our financials for this platform is down. Our impressions and recommendations are down. And they're trying to do all they can to silence us. So yes, things are going great in America to an extent. But then there's things like we talked about in this video with AI, with property tax, with our judges, that are still going wrong. And just like this, the more they attack our channels, the more they attack conservative views, the more they attack this kind of push of truth, the more that we won't get our message out. My goal is to always speak to you very honest, no matter what the situation is. And what I hope more than ever is that you're actually getting something out of it. If you are, please, we do ask that you subscribe. We do ask that you give us a thumbs up, and we do ask that you comment and even share. Truthfully, when it all comes down to it, we just want to be used by God. We want to be able to have a platform to speak about common sense and wisdom. We want to have a chance to share who we are. We want to have a chance to share a commonality with you, because ultimately we all feel a little disgruntled. We all feel a little left out. We all feel a little perturbed by some of the situations that our government has put us in, that our Congress has put us in, that our leaders have put us in. And when we're able to share, it does feel like we have other people that's standing alongside us. So again, my goal for this channel has always been to share information, to gain wisdom, to gain common sense together as a group, as a community, but ultimately to be able to express support for you, and you know that there's others out there that has support too, because everybody watching this has a commonality. They want more freedom, they want more liberty, and they want a conservative, probably faith-based outlook on life, for their kids to be raised in better quality schools and to not have to pay taxes and to have cleaner food for our families. That's all this channel's ever been about. So we ask for your support. We humbly ask that you give us a thumbs up, and we humbly ask that you keep sharing our message across this platform and tell YouTube. Basically, we want to see more of the channels that we like. It's not just me, it's several channels. But we have been attacked. And we do ask for your prayers, of course. We do ask for your time of watching. And most of all, we just hope that we're bringing good information to you. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And again, we pray more than anything is that the things that you hear in our videos helps you be more prepared, helps you learn to be better, helps you be more sustainable, helps you be more independent. If you're getting 1% better each and every day, then you're doing something better. And ultimately, we hope that you find peace in God. That's all that matters. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.